Building a good looking house in Minecraft can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be. I've broken my building approach down into 5 easy, repeatable steps I believe you can use to make any build you do look aesthetically pleasing. Hello and welcome. My name is Calico. The reason we're doing this today is I burned down my starter house last time and I need a new one. So I figured I would show everyone my building approach. So the first step I always take in a building is location. Now in our case, we have a village. A village makes a very easy landmark to spot at a distance, so if you get lost, you can know where you're at. And even easier is the Grand Archive. So we're actually going to be using this little space next to the Grand Archive as our building space. As anyone can see, I've been busy, I've been gathering materials. Location is very important because it helps you decide not only your colors that you'll be using, which is our second step, but it also helps you decide a style that you may be building. What I mean by this is if you are, for example, up on a mountain, or say up on that mountain, in a spruce biome, you may want to build a more wintry cottage using the spruce trees, and that would aesthetically fit in and make sense with the biome that you're going to be living in. That makes perfect sense. If you're going to be living in a cherry biome, you may want a cozy pink cottage, and that also makes perfect sense for that biome. However, putting a blackstone and nether brick manor deep inside a cherry forest doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless you do some other terraforming to make it fit. And that brings us to our second step, color palette. Today, we are going to be building with these 6 blocks. Hello? Oh, hello, Enderman. We're going to be building with these 6 blocks. We have copper, granite, brick, mud brick, jungle, and moss. Granite and brick are a classic combination. They go together very well as they are similar colors. Copper, mud brick, and jungle all complement each other very well. As you can see, copper and jungle both have those green tones to them, but they also have that coppery brown tone that matches very well with the mud brick. And those green tones will complement and match up very well with our moss. We have a very cohesive, very natural color looking build palette that we can use to make something that's going to conform to the land around us. Now there's a lot of different kind of houses that you can build, and that brings us to our third step. We have foundation, frame, focus, or purpose. So in our case, our purpose is building a starter house. Nothing else. This house that I'm going to be building needs to do nothing more than have space for me to have my bed and a few crafting tables. My storage space will be elsewhere. I have a village that I will be putting lots of my job needs in. I don't need this house to do anything other than store a few odds and ends that I decided to keep there, decorations, and a bed. So it's going to be pretty small. And that is actually my preferred way to go about it. I prefer having multiple buildings for different purposes, as that lets me do different things. But if your purpose is you want to have a base that you can expand on and turn into this big mega build, I actually recommend you start with something a little boxy and simple that leaves you space to expand that you can use essentially as a long-term storage room as you build up the base that you desire. But in our case today, we're going to be building a starter house. So let's start with that. Just the most basic of things that we need. We're going to be building a hobbit hole style house. So all we need to do is dig out a bit of this wall to leave us space to dig in. Now I want to take a moment here to talk about the other parts of step 2. Those being foundation, frame, and focus. Foundation and frame really refer to the size and shape of your build. And by frame, if you've watched other builds, you'll often notice that the first step is they will put up these log pillars and really define the foundational points that will define what the shape of the build's going to be. The foundation is just putting down a If you look at a normal house, the foundation layer of a house that defines where it's going to be shape-wise on the ground, but does not tell you how high it's going to go. In our case, the foundation in the frame is really defined by the terrain itself. The size of this build is kind of restricted by the fact that if you go off to our right, we come onto a ravine. If you go too much further to the left, I will be coming inside of my grand archive. I don't want to do either of those things, so my build is really restricted into this space that I'm building. Those two things really help you decide where your size is going to be, and they will often feed into your focus. Focus is referring to a focus point of the build. In my case, for our hobbit hole, I think the focus point could really be defined as the doorway, as I like to build a nice intricate doorway that kind of grabs your attention so you're tempted to go inside and explore. These are often also fed into by your purpose. If you were building a mega build, for example, your focus point may be something that's a little bit more of a minuscule detail in the grand scheme of the thing, but it's a very important detail that the eye is drawn to, that you put a lot of time and effort into, that then feeds into the rest of the build. All right, what a beautiful box that is. 7 by 9 box. More could a woman need. Clearly I'm joking, but realistically, this is how a lot of people build. They build a box, they stick their stuff inside it, and they don't think anything else about it. And that's why they're here. They want to do better. The next step, the fourth step, is to texture. So we're going to take our bricks, we're going to texture it with granite. Granite is a great block to pair with bricks. It matches very well. And honestly, that's as simple as texturing has to be. Just brick, granite. For a small build like this, 2 blocks is enough. You don't have to get overly complicated. The larger the build, the more blocks you'll need to texture with. If you're having a very, very large build that would take up this whole space, you would want to be texturing with 5, even maybe 7 blocks. For our case, 2 blocks is plenty. You're going to notice our roof is a little flat. That doesn't look great. So we're going to change that. We're going to add a bit of a roof. It's not going to go all the way back, all 7 blocks. We're going to add a roof. Our roof is going to be made of copper. And this is where we start to get into our 5th step, detailing. And yes, I do consider the roof a detail. I'm going to need my copper from my smelting. Now for our roof, we're going to do a low slant roof. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to place a stair, 1 block lining up with the edge. Then you're going to put down a slab, and then another stair. And we're going to have upside down set of stairs. On top of that will be a slab, and then finally another set of stairs. And then I'm just going to fill in this last little bit of dirt so that our roof doesn't protrude past the dirt. Excellent. Nice and simple. Let's get away from everything. Creeper, come on, buddy. And we're looking better already. All right, so for our next detailing, we're going to add in a door frame. Something to frame our door. And then we're going to add in some windows. And what we're going to use to do that is the mud bricks and the jungle. I'm actually going to remove this. We're going to grab our mud bricks, have our jungle. We're going to make some stairs. We're going to make a handful of trap doors. I want to frame our door in a bit of a circular pattern. So how I'm going to do that is like so. That is our door frame. Frames our door very nicely. It makes it stand out. And you can then texture this with packed mud. And that'll age the door. Or in the case that we're going to do, you could also texture it with jungle logs. Or you can also use stripstone. They all have very similar textures. And they work very nicely. Then you just strip those. Boom. Nice. I personally think packed mud works better. I don't have any packed mud on hand at the time. I have to grow some more wheat. I might replace this later. All right, next detailing, windows. We're gonna go grab some glass I have in my storage. Then we're going to add in some windows. We're going to frame those windows with some copper bars. And if I don't use this now, I'm gonna need it later. All right, I realized I had some extra wheat on hand. I went and made some packed mud. And we're just gonna replace this packed mud just to show you what that texturing looks like. I think it works very nicely. Now, the windows. First thing to note about windows is you don't ever want to really put them in the corner on the inside, because that just makes your windows look odd. So for our build, I'm going to place them right around here. All right, so we've added our copper bars in. And as you can see, I decided to add in a little bit of a skylight. I'll show you what that looks like on the inside. I like it. It adds a good bit of detail. Lets in a lot more natural light. So then you have the last and sometimes optional part of your detailing, and that's landscaping. Not everybody enjoys landscaping, but it is often necessary for a build to look its best. We're just going to fill in some space here. Have a little bit of overlap there. Yeah. Moss. And we spread it. We have a nice mossy background overhang that. We can also take these dirt blocks, replace them with moss. Now, we're gonna let this age a bit so I can show you the final product, because right now the copper stands out a little bit too much for my taste. And I want you to see what it looks like aged. But this is more or less the finished exterior of the build. Maybe a different time, I will show you my methodology for doing interior decorating. That's a bit of a different process, but this is what I typically try to do for building a nice looking starter house. All right, and here we are. Final results. Copper's been aged up a bit. We have the texturing, planted an azalea tree here. Everything's looking good. I will show the interior at a different time. We have the light coming through. Everything's working out. Until next time.